Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
All right, Purple Daily on draft every Monday right here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel podcast feed. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Originally, we were going to have a little bit of a overarching, longer-term conversation about what Vikings players in the Kwesi era have the most to prove. But then we heard some rumblings. I heard some last night. Miles was sniffing around the same type of bacon on the kitchen stove too. He had the same crackling and smells that I was getting.
Bacon goes in the oven, Declan. Bacon goes in the oven.
Guy?
Yeah.
You, okay, I will start it on the stove and finish in the oven, but I never cook it start to finish in the oven.
Oh, dude, I perfected it. It's just it's you got to figure it out. It's 400 degrees. You flip after like 8 minutes.
Okay.
And then you go another like 8 minutes, and it's perfect.
4-0. Do you agree with this?
I will not pan fry it anymore. It's either oven or Blackstone. Because when you do it on the Blackstone, what you do is you start it on one side, then you flip it over to the other side, and then you pour your hash browns on top of the bacon grease because you got to cook them in oil. So now, not only are you conserving, you're adding a little bit of extra flavor to your potatoes, which is always a good idea.
And finally, on this bacon talk, before we talk JJ, I am always a chewy bacon guy unless it's a BLT. Like if it's a BLT, I want crispy. I don't want to be like pulling off chewy bacon out of my BLT. But 90% of the time, give me the chewy over the crispy, harder bacon. Personally, that's where I go with my bacon.
I will eat bacon if it's bacon, as long as it's pork and not turkey. I do not discriminate against bacon as long as it's pork. Turkey bacon can absolutely go kick rocks.
I'm with you there.
I can make it all work, but yeah, I'd rather have pork bacon. Give me the crispy edges and let it get a little bit like chewier on the middle, like when you're just eating it like eggs and bacon or that type of thing.
Sure.
But maybe a hot take. I don't like bacon on my hamburgers. I'm not. I'd rather eat bacon by itself or like in a meat, like in some like separate. I'll do a BLT, but I don't want it on my hamburger. I feel like it never comes out right, and I just don't like the way it competes with my burger. I don't know why. I'm not a big fan of it.
So I'm gonna blow your mind. When I worked at Applebee's, they were kind of the first ones to do smash burgers, where you smash ingredients into the beef. So you put the ingredients on the flat top, put the burger bowl over it, and then smash it. Do that with bacon and try it.
I could see that. That's a little different because that gives you a little more fat in the middle to render with it. I could see that working, but like bacon on top, like I've just never been.
Miles, it's got to be cooked bacon because raw bacon you just won't be able to cook it enough.
Oh, sure. I got you.
Well, speaking of bringing home bacon, Justin Jefferson is going to be bringing home a lot of bacon. We can maybe sometimes ask him how he prefers his bacon. But regardless, a 4-year contract for JJ. It gets done. So let's kind of talk about the roster construction going forward, knowing now that this deal is indeed in place. I think we all assumed it was going to eventually get done. I guess timing-wise, I'm a little surprised. It happened on June 3rd. I thought maybe this was going to be more of a mid to late summer thing as training camp got closer. But just judging from all the information that came out from Schefter, JJ literally throwing out the thank you video of a pre-produced video like the second the news broke, it felt like the principle or like 90% of this deal has probably been done for weeks. Like not even just like got done on Friday. Like it's been probably mostly done for weeks. So I guess, Fornell, I'll start with you. Were you surprised it got done this early? And what are your overall takes on the contract?
I've been saying for months that I think the deal's pretty much done and they're just trying to dot I's and cross T's. And I'm not surprised that they did it before rookie minicamp. And here's why. I don't think they wanted to deal with the potential of a Justin Jefferson hold-in. We had no actual evidence that said he would attend mandatory practices and not do anything. But we did see that with Danielle Hunter. We did see that with TJ Hawkinson last year. And who knows if Jefferson would have been that guy? I don't think he would have, but now you that completely clear that cloud away from mandatory minicamp. And now as a team, you can really focus on what's going on. You can focus on what's important, the practices, the developing your players, getting chemistry built, especially now Jefferson's going to get passes from Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy. That's going to be incredibly valuable. Plus, Kwesi was blatant. He wanted to give Jefferson basically a full month. Well, now you've got the 3 J's. Justin Jefferson's June, and he gets to enjoy the contract extension. And now you have this cloud over the Minnesota Vikings completely gone. All the national pundits that said, oh, they should trade Jefferson or Jefferson's going to get traded. Well, they were all wrong. We knew they were wrong from the start, and now they can stop talking about it. And I'm really excited. I'm very happy for Jefferson, and kudos to Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah for getting that 4th year. I didn't think that they would be able to, because wide receiver contracts have been trending towards 3 years. So then you can hit again by the age of 28. Getting that 4th year is a really big deal. And they made it happen. I'm guessing that was kind of the concession. All right, we'll make you higher paid than Nick Bosa, but then you got to give us the 4th year. That's my guess. I don't have any insider information on it, but they got it done. And it's really important that they got it done. And thank God.
I know. Yeah, I didn't want this to be a lingering situation into training camp, the holding in, all that hoopla, all the distraction. You know, Schefter obviously reports that, yes, the Vikings received calls on Jefferson. It sounds like it was mostly a hang up the phone situation, which is probably important, man. I mean, Miles, they got rid of Kirk Cousins. They've had roster turnover to Neil Hunter. They drafted rookie QB, got Sam Darnold in here, who is expected to be the number 1 starter, but the building block, right, and JJ staying around here too, I think says a lot. Like Judd says, he was going to take the money from whatever. I don't think, like, if the Vikings did, let's just say in a weird scenario, the Vikings didn't draft JJ McCarthy and it was Sam Darnold and Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall in the quarterback room, like, is JJ in a rush to get the deal done? Like, is he locked into being a member of the Vikings? I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he just takes the bag.
I think he takes the bag because he doesn't know if JJ McCarthy is going to be good. We don't know if JJ McCarthy is going to be good. It's a bet you're taking. It shows an investment in a guy, so I think that matters to Justin Jefferson. I'm gonna have a hard time not calling him JJ anymore. Jets, like that one's gonna be hard for me. So bear with me on that. But no, I think he was taking the bag either way. Because I feel like what we've seen in today's, like, all sports, guys can get the bag and then still go get traded later. Like, I think he wanted to see how things were going to play out, but I always think he was never going to turn down that money. He was never going to get traded. The Vikings weren't going to play this, like, we'll just cower and trade you scenario. He's too good for that. I think he's shown that he wants to be here. He's committed to the Vikings. And I just think no matter how that had played out, he knew Kirk was going. Like, he didn't know how the draft was going to play out. But the whole time, the plan was always to extend him. No matter what the scenario was happening with quarterback, Justin Jefferson was going to get paid. So I don't think, whether it was whatever happened in the draft, if they hadn't gotten a guy in the first round, I don't think a Justin Jefferson extension, I think it was always going to happen. So I don't think that mattered. I think it helps, but I don't think it mattered. Like, I don't think at the end of the day it was going to stop it from happening. So yeah, at the end of the day, they got it done though, and that's what matters. I think Nick Bosa's deal getting done last year really made this deal, in my opinion, a lot easier because you had parameters in place. And I think what we'll see with, like, CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase is a similar thing, but like that Nick Bosa deal really got the idea of this extension done quicker or easier because you had a baseline. Like before the Nick Bosa deal, the baseline was like $30 million with Tyreek Hill, I think it was. And then Bosa kind of really ramped that up. And I think to your point, Forno, the like 4 or 5 year deal, like you said, that was the only way he was going to get to those numbers is signing a 4 or 5 year extension. And he got the 4 year deal, which is a win-win for both sides, I think. But yeah, I think that Bosa deal really just like set the parameters for this extension to get done as quickly as it did. I think we talk about, like, because the negotiation started last year, which, let's say Nick Bosa doesn't get the extension last year, maybe the Vikings do get JJ or Jets. I can't do this. Extended, before the season starts last year. Maybe they do because Jets would have set the precedent for what that new contract looked like for non-QBs rather than Bosa. So maybe it would have been like 33, 34 million per year instead of 35 because he would have been the one setting the precedent rather than Bosa. But since Bosa was the one, that might have slowed negotiations down a little bit last year. But again, that's in his 30 going into year 4, not going into year 5. You're going into year 5 with that Bosa deal already done. I think that made the negotiations this offseason a lot easier. It just made it like, okay, we have a baseline. Okay, where can we meet in the middle? Because I'm guessing Jets, his team was probably like, let's go 36, 37, somewhere in that range, 120 million fully guaranteed, all that jazz, right? Like, And I'm sure the Vikings are like, nah, like meet us in the middle somewhere. We'll have you top Bosa, but we can't go too much higher than that and all that stuff. So I think they were able to like find that like really good middle ground with that 35 where he beats Bosa, resets the market, and does all that.
So roster construction wise now going forward, Forno, like you got Sam Darnold here on a 1-year contract. Obviously, you have J.J. McCarthy through the length of his rookie deal, which lines up kind of perfectly with Justin Jefferson's new 4-year deal. I guess roster construction going forward, like you're okay with obviously giving Jefferson the bag, but also like roster construction, does this make the path still pretty easier to build out a very competitive and Super Bowl winning roster down the line? They might not be Super Bowl favorites right now, but does the Jefferson contract still give the Vikings the flexibility to be players in free agency, to still build out this roster? Do you feel that this contract still sets them up for a good amount of success if that is indeed their goal?
Yes, and I don't know. I think it's a very complicated question to answer because we don't know the terms of the Justin Jefferson contract. One of the things that Kwesi Mensa has talked about at length consistently is wanting flexibility. That was one of the reasons why they decided not to bring back Kirk Cousins. What he wanted in a contract did not match up with how the Vikings wanted to build out their roster from a financial standpoint. He wanted full guarantees. The Vikings wanted to keep things flexible. They parted ways. And we'll kind of see with the J.J. McCarthy bet how much that ends up mattering. But I think with Jefferson's contract, is there going to be like the Jalen Hurts contract has a ton of option bonuses built into it and relatively low base salaries. And those option bonuses compound. It also makes it very difficult to move on from him. So are they going to go that route? Are they going to go the more traditional route? How is Rob Brzezinski going to structure this? I think that's going to tell us a lot. But overall, I still project the Vikings to have around $65 million in cap space with a Justin Jefferson contract extension. Because right now I'm just projecting it as next year's cap hit is $35 million. Just for ease sake, because we don't know the full structure of it yet. And Over the Cap has it just under $70 million. But their projections right now still sit at $260 million. When this year's salary cap is $255.4, I expect that number to go up about $35 million because of what we saw this past year, how the new TV deals are being impacted with this. And it's going to be an exponential growth. So you can still get a Christian Darrisaw extension done. Let's say they get it done, and that takes out $25 million. You still have at that point around $45 million to play with to build out the defensive line, which honestly is probably going to be the only focus next offseason. You're probably going to have a cornerback room that's going to be more solidified after the season. That you're going to probably see the emergence of Mekhi Blackman. Maybe a Caleb Evans takes that full step, or Shaq Griffin has a little bit of a renaissance. I think they're going to figure out cornerback. They have too many good enough players. Somebody's going to take a step forward and really show that they deserve that. So you got to focus on the defensive line. You fix that in an offseason, and then all of a sudden you're cooking with gas. And they still got to figure out wide receiver 3 too. But you're never going to have a perfect roster, but there's still the ability to go out and really make an impact in free agency and make an impact in the draft and bring in players to fortify what you don't have.
So, I look at teams, Miles, like the Eagles, who made the Super Bowl run with Jalen Hurts. Same thing with the Bengals, Joe Burrow. But now, like, the Bengals are going to be in a situation where they're paying Burrow. They're going to line up a big contract for Jamar Chase. Like, they're going to have to start paying some of those core players that help them get to the Super Bowl run. I mean, this is a problem for the Vikings to figure out maybe like 3 to 4 years from now, right? Like, this isn't going to be an issue for them to have to figure out this summer, next summer, or even the summer after that. But does this still give them the flexibility to do it now? And then also, if everything works out, like let's say the Vikings are perennial playoff contenders, McCarthy is hitting, his peak, you're all good with obviously paying those core players in McCarthy, Jefferson, Darrisaw. You're okay with paying, those premier guys big time money, right? Like if the Vikings are obviously hitting where they're supposed to be in their development and being a perennial team that should be flirting with Super Bowls.
100%. You have to pay your stars. And it's not just paying like good players, you're paying elite players. And I think that's the important distinction here. Like Justin Jefferson isn't getting $35 million a year just because he's a really good wide receiver. He's getting paid $35 million a year because he's an amazing, great, elite wide receiver, like best of the best receiver. And he's 24 years old, going to be 25. Like he hasn't even quite hit his prime. So you're in that stage where it's a perfect time to pay guys like Jefferson, Darisaw, anyone else that you want to go get, and then you obviously add the young guys you just drafted in McCarthy and Turner. So I think this is the perfect time to pay him. And that's part of the reason why you move on from a guy like Kirk Cousins. This isn't like we talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago with the Detroit Lions as like a similar example. Like we paid. I'm assuming we'll pay Darisaw at some point. But I'll say Darisaw and Jefferson, just the way that the Lions just paid Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell. But obviously, I think ours are going to be a little bit higher than those two. But I think you also have the rookie quarterback, whereas they have a veteran quarterback that they just paid. So the numbers, it's okay to pay a little bit more for those guys out for the Vikings side because your quarterback isn't going to be making anything for the next 5 years. And so there's a lot of flexibility that you give yourself. I'm hoping they kind of add a couple more $1 million to Jefferson's contract this year. Like maybe they add like $2 or $3 million, $4 million to it because they have a little bit of flexibility this year. And maybe they maneuver Brian O'Neill money just to kind of keep themselves in the black for the season to go with all the rookie contracts and all that stuff and in-season money that they'll need. But who knows? Like I'm just hoping like it's not like completely backloaded. I agree with what Forno's saying in terms of like the cap's going to keep going up. But at some point, you still want to structure the deal with Jefferson that's still where it's like palatable for you. And you're not just like, oh, hey, Jefferson's on a $45 million cap hit. Like that's like not that you couldn't stomach it with a rookie quarterback. It's just like you just prefer not that to happen. And so, and if you need to restructure it down the road, you'd rather have it be where that number is not outrageous already. And then you make it like $60 million in 4 years or what have you. So like there's a lot of things that they can do flexibility wise, but yeah, I'm all for paying the guys that they need to pay and rebuilding the roster. There's a few positions that I think Forno even mentioned: D-line, corner, and offensive line, interior offensive line are really the like long-term needs of this team. But some of those long-term needs might be in-house. You might have those guys in-house. It's just about seeing those guys take the next step. Right now, we don't know it, but the hope is that those guys take that next step and you can fill those naturally and organically from what you currently have on the roster. But if you can't, at least having some of that cap flexibility allows you to fill some of those holes through free agency. And then you still do have the first round pick and then picks in the future to address some other needs as well.
So we have answers on the contract. Do you guys want the
nice.
deets?
Yes,
oh, yeah.
That'd be great.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, one of the few people who ends up getting contracts. Signing bonus, $36.938 million. 2024 base salary, $1.125 million. I believe that puts his total this year at around $8 million per season. $8 million on the cap hit. 2025, $30 million option bonus, fully guaranteed with a base salary of $1.17 million. So that's going to put his cap hit around $38 million. $510,000 in-game roster bonuses must be earned for 25 and $250,000 in workout bonuses. $24.99 million in base salary in 26, guaranteed for injury at signing. $17.99 million is fully guaranteed. The rest of that becomes fully guaranteed March of 25. So it looks like there's the $88.743 million fully guaranteed at signing. Practical guarantee is 95.7, but with the rolling guarantees, it's at that 110. Cash flow in year one is $38 million, $69.99 million in year two. And he has the most cash flow through 2 years, 4 years, and 5 years for a non-quarterback.
Good for him. It's almost like the Kirk Cousins contract in a way, like in terms of cash. Like he's getting himself, what does it say, $95 million, basically fully guaranteed in this. Because I think what I was reading is it says it if you'd have to save some of that cap of money if you cut him after this year, which is not happening. So that just basically guarantees himself $95 million over that course, which is a lot of money.
So is Darisaw obviously the next in line here for an extension? But do you just not even handle that till this time next year? Like, is there a world where he does get an extension this summer, or do you just wait till next year to probably handle that? And I guess a two-part of that question is, after Darisaw, who was like the next big guy in line in-house for the Vikings to maybe extend? You know, like I think that is an open conversation of trying to figure out even.
Pretty straightforward to me. I mean, I would pay Darrisaw if you can now. And then, like, if you can get it done in by training camp, I think that's a good thing. I think we used to see Rick Spielman do it, especially I feel like when he was really in his like bag. Like he would get guys done a year early, and you would see the benefits of it as the cap continued to go up, and guys would reset the market later. But I would go yes, if you can get Darrisaw done now, 100% do it. You know he's a cornerstone piece for you. And then after that, I think Cameron Bynum's the like next guy for me, at least that I'm like off top. I haven't really done a deep dive into it, but I'd say Cameron Bynum would be that one guy that like is worth a contract extension. You expect Harrison Smith to retire after this year. Mm-hmm. And so then Bynum's really stepped up the last couple of years and really found a home within this defense. And I think he'd be a guy you could look at paying. I don't know what let's say $8 to $10 million a year. I don't know. That's just off top. It could be more. It could be less. I'm just going to say 8 to 10 for now, just because I'm guessing. But he could be a guy that I think you could build around on the back of that defense.
So Bynum probably be the next guy.
Yeah. The only other guy I can think of as far as an extension would maybe be Ed Ingram, and that's your mileage is going to vary on that one, and he's not even eligible till after this year. Oh, that's just kind of where we're at with the 2024 draft. Like it's not great.
Byron Murphy Jr. would be the other guy, but he's obviously not like a rookie. It's not a rookie extension. It'd be his first deal he signed with the Vikings. But I'm with you. So
I think the only reason they don't we're talking hypotheticals here. The only reason that the Vikings may not want to try to sign Darrisaw this year is because the Wolves don't want to fork over another huge signing bonus. And this is where some of the cash fluidity comes in, because like my wife and I are probably worth, I don't know, let's say $700,000. We don't have $700,000, but if we were to liquidate everything and then, our earning power and that kind of stuff, that's how, like, when you talk about billionaires, that the net value is a lot different than cash on hand. So the Vikings may not have the cash on hand where they feel super comfortable giving out another massive extension like this, especially after they spent in free agency. They give Justin Jefferson the contract extension. This has been an issue with a team like the Las Vegas Raiders for some time, because they're very cash poor and they don't give out big signing bonuses because you have and huge guarantees because you have to put money in escrow. The reason why you put money in escrow is players back in the 60s and 70s wouldn't get paid because owners were too cheap and didn't have that kind of money. So they put that in place to make sure that all these guys would get paid. The Vikings are about to put like almost $100 million in escrow for this Justin Jefferson contract. Are they going to want to do that right away again? Not to say they don't want to pay Darrisaw, but it's a business conversation that we don't necessarily think about, because that's a lot of money to put away that you cannot touch. It is there just like how you have an escrow for your house to pay bills. You can't touch it. So are they going to be able to do that? I'm not saying they can or can't, but it's a conversation that you have in the building where you have to make sure that you're able to do those things, to make sure that you do things the right way based on league policy. I'd extend Darrisaw tomorrow if I could, especially because the more he plays and the more consistent he plays, because his biggest issues are like little nagging injuries and just overall consistency. The high end play, there's a reason why people are comparing him to Trent Williams. Yeah, like the Albert Breers of the world. And like he has that in him, but he's not consistent enough to really be at that like top 3 echelon of tackle. He's more like fringe top 5, which is still very, very good. But if you could extend him now, considering all those little things, before he really has that massive breakout year that introduces him to like all of national media and not just us here in Minnesota, I think it would be beneficial. But it's a very layered conversation.
2 things there real quick for Declan is like the Lions just paid Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Penei Sewell a buttload of money. The Vikings are not a cash poor owner. They don't have a cash poor ownership. They have a very strong cash flow ownership who's willing to pay when they need to. I don't think a Darrisaw extension is something that they would balk at because of the cash. And it's probably a conversation you're saying, like Forno, like it's probably a conversation they're having, but I don't think it's something that would deter them, because we've seen the Wilfs pay a boatload of cash up front over the last handful of years, whether it's Kirk Cousins, like the Everson Griffins back in the day, Danielle Hunter, all those guys, they paid those guys all in one offseason before. and it's kind of not been an issue. So I don't think cash itself is an issue for them, but it's definitely a conversation they're going to have. But I think a Darrisaw extension, like I said earlier, you have like Nick Bosa with Justin Jefferson, you have a baseline with Penei Sewell of where you go with Christian Darrisaw. It's like, dude, we think so. Hypothetically, I'm going to say it. Penei Sewell is arguably the best right tackle in football, if not the best. He's obviously a top 3-1 in my opinion, and probably the league's opinion. Darrisaw, in terms of left tackle, whether you're paying left tackle, right tackle money, I feel like they're all becoming the same. Elite players get paid elite money. I just think you have a baseline of what you could pay Darrisaw, and that makes that conversation, in my opinion, a lot easier to have. That could help speed up that extension now rather than having to wait till next year, because you have a guy like Penei Sewell's numbers already in place. So they're looking at that and like, okay, how do we structure our deal around what the Lions just did and tell Christian Darrisaw, let's come to an agreement, because we don't. I mean, I think they'd probably say this in negotiations, but like, we have a guy like Penei Sewell who's your age, who's played more consistently better than you, and he's making X. We think you're this good, but we think you're as good as Penei Sewell, or maybe better, or maybe slightly below, like somewhere in that range. Let's hammer out a deal. I feel like that makes that conversation a lot easier than if you didn't have a guy like Penei Sewell who just got paid as well.
So I think there's one date to remember here, and it's some Dan Graziano brought up in the Justin Jefferson talks, and that's July 31st. And there really wasn't a whole lot of context built in, and I'm wondering if that has something to do with how the Wilfs handle their books. Maybe it's the end of like their fiscal year. Danielle Hunter got his amended contract on July 31st. TJ Hawkinson got his deal after July 31st. So maybe there's something there, and I think you're right, Miles.
Wonder if it's a team's fiscal year.
That's kind of what I'm alluding to. And there's so many layered conversations. Like, I don't think they're necessarily cash poor, but there's a, like, even if you're not cash poor, like, do you want to like empty the vault enough to where, hey, I wish we were just a little bit more comfortable, because there's so many little things that we just don't realize that goes into running a football team. Like, hey, free meals for everybody in the building. Like, maybe they just don't want to do it. And this is all hypothetical. We don't know. But if they want to get it done, they will.
No, I'm talking to two guys who are already married, but as someone who's about to get married, and I'm watching a bunch of money leave the checking account and savings account literally this week and this month. A lot of fun being cash poor. Those things are a lot of fun decisions that have been made in the last few weeks. Hey, one more thing here. Speaking of the offensive line, the Vikings did bring back Dalton Risner. So he will be competing, I guess, still for a guard position. What do we make of this? Good thing to bring him back. Do we still think Blake Brandel is still the favorite to be the right guard spot? What do we make? Miles, will go to you. What do you make of Dalton Risner coming back here to the Vikings?
I like it. I think it gives you a sense of security, whether it's Brandel or Risner that wins that left guard job, because you know what you have in both guys. I think if Brandel wins the job, let me rephrase that. You don't know what you have in Brandel as a starter, but you know what you have in him as an overall like player on your team and how he fits into your roster. Because you know that if he doesn't win the starting job, he can play all the other spots along the offensive line, probably except center, which is fine. He can play all the other 4 spots in a pinch if you need him to. So that's partly why you extended him to the deal you did. I think it was like a $3 million average, which is a pretty good deal for a guy like him. But with Risner, you know what you have in him as a starter, but you also know that if Brandel starts the season as a starter and maybe doesn't play well or gets hurt, you know what you have in Risner to come in and play as a starter. So I think there's a good overall approach that they took. They didn't just settle for Brandel and say, we'll see. We think he's going to be the starter. We think he'll be pretty good. Hopefully he can win the job. No, you said, hey, let's go out now, go make sure we solidify that position and not have to worry about it, no matter who wins that job, you have another guy behind them that's a solid veteran that can play in a pinch. So I think it's a win-win scenario, and it just rises the level of the overall interior offensive line. Because if you just had Brandel, you're probably we were sitting here like, man, they really need to find a guy that's probably a true interior offensive line like depth piece, and they didn't have that before. I'm not even saying I think Risner's a left guard only, but Brandel isn't. So I think there's a little bit of mixing and shuffling you can do with Brandel. If you need like a guy goes down, like let's say Ed Ingram goes down, you could shift you could shift Brandel to right guard and have Risner going to left guard. So there's a lot of different things you can do there that gives you more flexibility that you didn't have before you re-signed Risner. So I like the deal. I don't know what the terms of his deal look like, but I would guess it's nothing crazy. It's probably pretty team friendly, because I don't think the Vikings were going to bring him back on a deal that Risner was looking for. So I think there's probably a little bit of like maybe slightly more than what Brandel got, just to kind of make Risner feel better in terms of like money he can earn and incentives and things. So we'll see, but I think it's a good overall approach.
Yeah, I think the depth's important there, right, Forno? I mean, they have a glaring hole still on that on the interior part of their line. They have two great pillar tackles in Darrisaw and O'Neal. Maybe Bradbury continues to be on the up climb. Maybe Ed Ingram puts that horrible rookie year behind him and is also taking the next step forward. But I think just having depth, right? I mean, the moment you lose anyone on that offensive line, and especially your tackles, your season's going to be in a pretty tough spot. I just feel like bringing Risner back, at the very least, good depth move, plus the great super kick that he likes to do when he trots down the field, which I love.
Yeah, I will disagree. I don't think the Vikings have a glaring hole in their offensive line. I don't think it's... I think they could definitely improve 3 spots, but I don't think one of those holes is like, oh my God, Dakota Dozier is starting. Like, they're all solid enough where, you know what? You don't necessarily love going into battle with Brandel, Bradbury, and Ingram as your interior, but you're okay with it. You can win with it. You can maneuver kind of around it. But the Risner thing, I don't think he's guaranteed anything. I know Doogie on the Scoop Session kind of mentioned, I think it was that there are probably a lot of incentives in his deal, and we don't know the actual specifics of the deal yet. But like, I didn't think Risner was all that great, especially at the end of the year. That dude cannot climb to the second level and make a block to save his life. That's a bad thing for a team that likes to run zone concepts. You can't take poor angles and completely whiff on linebackers. You got to be able to climb and hit him. And I think that's why they were comfortable with Brandel, because I think Brandel can do that. Now, Brandel's not going to be able to be quick enough on like really fast edge rushers, which is why they kicked him inside, and I think it's going to work. But it wouldn't shock me if Risner was on the bench to start the year. They really do like Brandel, and I've talked about it on my show where I think he could be the next Josh Metellus, where they extended him early, and then he takes a really big step as a 6th-round pick from that 2020 class and becomes like a really quality starter. And yeah, Risner, like, especially when you're trying to improve the running game, I don't see how having him be the starter does you any favors.
Any other last things, as we have more camp stuff coming up here? Judd's going to be out there. Anything you guys are like specifically looking for? I know JJ's done, so that's all good, and we're going to hear from Justin Jefferson also tomorrow, and Kevin O'Connell and whatnot. Anything you guys are looking forward to at camp though this week for the Vikings?
Yeah, I wrote a 5-part or a piece, like 5 things to watch for. One of them was, will Justin Jefferson report? Well, you can just kind of ignore that because that got posted at about 6 this morning. Well, we don't have to worry about that now, but I want to see the cornerbacks. I want to see how these guys stack up. And there was talk that, hey, maybe the light bulb's just not going on with a guy like Andrew Booth or Lewis Seen. I know Seen's not a cornerback, but they were kind of grouped together in that sense. Who's going to step up, and how is this cornerback room going to shape up? Because the only one that has like a solidified position is Byron Murphy, who's going to be a starter. But even him, you don't know where he's going to play on a play-in, play-out basis. If it's Blackman, maybe you have Blackman kick inside, Murphy stays outside. If it's a Caleb Evans, then you have Murphy kick inside, and you have Shaq Griffin and Evans as your outside corners. I want to see how this group stacks up. I want to see Kyrie Jackson and how they're trying to use him and how comfortable he is right away. There's so many layers to how the cornerback group could shape out. That's going to be the one thing I'm really looking for, obviously outside of quarterback.
Yeah, I love corners, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, I love that competition, like in that room. Like, I think you probably have your 3 guys in Murphy, Blackman, and Shaq Griffin as like the top 3 right now. And how that it's subject to change based on how other guys play. But I think those are your 3 starters to start, like, mini camp and all these things and going into the training camp probably. And then we'll see how things play out. But I'm excited to see that. Obviously for me, it's why the wide receiver group behind, because Jefferson obviously wasn't at the mini camp before OTAs and whatnot, the voluntary ones, but he'll be there this week. So it'll be fun to see like him and Addison kind of reemerge as the top 2 guys. But then like how does Powell, Trent Sherfield, does Jalen Naylor, kind of solidify himself? I think the last couple off seasons we've talked about him as like taking a step up approach and kind of adding more depth and a downfield threat to this offense. But last year didn't really find himself in good favor, I think, because of injuries and whatnot. But can he really solidify a role for in this offense now that they didn't really bring anybody in to challenge him? Like Trent Sherfield's a guy that's more like special teams in depth. Brandon Powell is a slot receiver, but like Jalen Naylor has a really good opportunity to kind of solidify a role on this team. And can he take it? I think he's a guy that is going to year 3 that really needs to show something if he wants to solidify a role. And so I'm excited to see how that like backup wide receiver roles play out.
Heck yeah. Yeah, Judge is going to be live there from Camp Notes, so we'll have some live editions too from TCO. We'll have plenty of other stuff to react to as well here on Purple Daily on Draft. We got Justin Jefferson contract done. You can go check out also our live reaction to that from Monday morning too with Mackie Judd and myself. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can expect Purple Daily on Draft every Monday right here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. We'll be talking at you next week.